All right.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. Um, get myself on the screen. This is Dick Miller welcoming you to the monthly meeting of the FOSS user group in Natick, which, thanks to a coronavirus quarantine, is in Natick and everywhere else, and now and anytime later on YouTube. Um, so welcome those of you who are on live and those who come in later. FOSS, for those of you who are new, stands for the free open source software that's available for your computer. You can run it on Windows, you can run it on Mac OS, you can run it on many other things, or you can run a free open source operating system as well. The most popular ones are versions of GNU Linux, and we're using one today called Ubuntu, where I'm sending from, but other people are using other versions of Linux and participating equally. We're coming to you using Jitsi Meet, and our meeting is free, courtesy of 8x8.com. That's 8x8.com. And we think it's much safer than Zoom, and for many of the same reasons that you aren't running around without a face mask in crowds this week, to avoid a virus and also to avoid other problems that Zoom has been well documented as causing. So here we are, we're doing our best. I want to say a little about FOSS to start. It's open source, and that means the source code is available to any programmer. They can look at it to make sure it's safe. They can look at it to get a good idea for their own program. They can look at it to take a big chunk of it and use it to build a different program from there, or to add a little piece of their own to the existing program. It's open source in the sense that everyone can participate. There are limits on some versions, but many versions also are free, not just in the sense of the programmer, but the sense of your pocketbook. No charge. We tend to specialize in items that are free both ways. FOSS can cover both, but doesn't always. We have a lot more information on why FOSS is good for you, but we know that it takes a while testing it before you believe it. Well, we recommend, for one thing, that you try using Firefox as a web browser. It's free, it's open source, and it's a good example you can run on any operating system. There's plenty of others. We use LibreOffice instead of Microsoft Office, and that's another example you can run on your computer. We'll be talking about some of those things throughout the meeting, but we have a lot of good things to do today, and I want to get started checking off the list. First of all, let's go look at the list. For me, that takes a little effort. Do I have it up already or not? I will fumble for a minute before I show you what I want to show you. I want to make sure I've got it. That's one thing I've got.
Well, you have to set share.
I want to first find and then share. That today's list. Oh, I guess I have to go into Thunderbird for that. Good. That's what I want to share. Now I hit the share, go back, and do the share.
You choose the application.
Jill and I are coaching each other on some things we haven't been doing enough of lately. This is the window I want to share, and now I will share it. And now you should be seeing the agenda for today.
Yes.
Good.
No.
We have
if you want, you can hide it and go back to the main screen and then come back.
Oh, there it's on now.
Good. Now, you can see a big list here. We won't go through all of it in sequence, but it does have some logic. Some people have been on earlier doing some debugging, and that's fine. We've just had the introductory slide talk, a very short one. Might come back for more now and again. And in the FOSS news, I want to highlight some news from yesterday, hot off the press. And that's that our own Dennis Payne, who's on with us, has won the first annual Maker Madness contest. He writes game programs, and one of them made it. So I'm mentioning it up here as news, but I'm mentioning it down below under FOSS Fun near the bottom, because Dennis is going to introduce you to the winning game. That
Charlie would like to speak, he says.
What?
Charlie is holding up his hand.
Just a minute.
What I wanted to do, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. I'm on fire. I went back to Firefox and it seems to work. I just wanted to congratulate Dennis, and I was holding my hand up to show thumbs up. I didn't have to do it verbally. I'll turn it
Thank
off.
you. Thank you, Charlie. We've been warning people not to use Firefox just yet because it isn't using all the tricks. But and somebody's got a phone call.
Yeah. What's the mute? I forgot.
Not us.
I got it, I think.
But Firefox is catching up on those tricks, and maybe we're finding out today. We'll let Charlie try it, but I hope most people won't. One of the past problems with Firefox is not when we're using Jitsi Meet, is that because it's missing one of the tools that Jitsi Meet is using, it tends to overload the system and not share nicely. The Firefox user may not be the person that gets kicked off or lose audio or whatever. Someone else may. And Firefox is implementing that. Last I heard, it wasn't quite aboard yet. I may be a little late, and we'll try our luck with very limited use of Firefox. Okay, back to where I was. We'll come back to Dennis later. I just wanted to make that news announcement. It's quite new. Congratulations. We have a lot of kinds of news this week. If you've been up late with TV, everything's going on. And darned if all of it isn't affecting our free open source software this month. That's not common. We have economic issues always, because free software is a way around so many of them. We have political issues, rarely, but sometimes. But when it comes to political issues like voting, free software can be a great answer. So I am hearing someone talking. I'm hearing someone talking in the background. If someone isn't muted and should be, please hit mute. Now, in addition to that, and it got fixed. In addition to that, we've had African rights in the news lately, and darned if that isn't showing up sideways in our talk for today also. You'll see when it comes in. And so many things that are going on out there are going on in our little closed FOSS community as well. I thought I'd mention that out front so you can see the ties as it all proceeds. The first one is coming up in the next topic. The GNOME Foundation puts out the GNOME front end, which I don't prefer, but many people do. And it's on many Linux systems. And they just settled a long time patent troll lawsuit. This is economics. Companies primarily want to make money. Some of them want to do good, but without the money, most of them aren't even going to do good when they want to. And some of them are flat out going to lie. It's often called advertising. The sliding scale goes a long way from dead honest to total lie, but you can't rely on it. We all learned that. You don't buy everything they tell you to buy. Well, there's also companies that are in it only to make money, and they don't even have a real product. What they do instead is they attempt to patent something broad enough so that if the patent gets approved by accident, they can sue and get money from people who use similar technology in a perfectly legal way. Those are patent trolls. They're trolling to see if their patent can't catch some poor somebody, and they don't want him to fix it. They want him to pay them money so he can keep using what he should have been able to keep using anyway. And their trick is to threaten him with such a big fine if he doesn't cave that it's cheaper to cave than to fight. A lot of big companies find it's very cheap to cave. It's only, say, $5,000, and that's a minute of their time. And they pay the money. Now he's got ammunition to argue with the next guy. It gets worse. It spirals. Google Foundation, which is GNOME Foundation, thank you, which is all to the good, has been in a patent troll lawsuit with a place that is a troll, and they've been fighting, and they've been threatening, and GNOME found the wherewithal to stick it out, and it's now solved. You're going to have this link by late tonight, maybe sooner, and when you have the link, you can read all about it, and you will find out that it's a big victory. That shouldn't be necessary. The war shouldn't have been necessary. We're fighting battles here like they're fighting battles out there. But this was a victory. Good. Next case is quite a bit like it. Not quite the same at the status at the moment. Book publishers, and it started with, I think, 3, and now it's bigger and probably getting bigger yet, are suing the Internet Archive. The Internet Archive is the group that brings you the Wayback Machine, which some of you know about. And for over 10 years, it's brought you the Open Library. And by the way, this appears under FOSS News, but also down near the bottom under
Hot Internet.
Is it Hot Internet it's under?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Joe. Under Hot Internet. And the reason is up here, we're talking about the news aspect. Down there, we'll introduce you to some of these tools so you can use them. 2 different ways of looking at the same topic. Now, what's going on here is when we all got quarantined by the coronavirus and started looking for more things we could do from home, and especially more things you could do with young people from home, now that they weren't in school, the Internet Archive made a decision to make the books it was loaning loans without limit. Up till then, the Internet Archive would buy a book, and just like a library in your town that buys a book, they would loan it out, and they'd loan it out on the internet. If they had 2 copies, they'd loan out 2 copies. If you came for the 3rd copy that they didn't have, you'd be on hold until one of them got done. That's been going on for 10 years. What they've changed, starting in March, is they said, we won't make you go on hold during this interim period, at least through June 1st, and we'll see about later. But it's because people are stuck at home. Libraries have been shut. Our Natick library now allows us to do a pickup, but it doesn't yet give us books from other libraries in its network, only the ones it has in its stack. and that are suitable for loan out. So in these crippled times, the online group did the sort of thing it's there for. Internet Archive said, we'll help. Publishers turned around and said, wait a minute, this is unauthorized use of books. You're not a library, you're a pirate site. Well, there's a lot of debate going on about that right now. And I think there'll be some good lawyers coming in on both sides. So here's one that isn't resolved, and you get to watch both sides of it. We'll introduce you to it, and we'll introduce you to it on 2 counts. You're going to see how the action is going on, and that in turn will lead to comments from the Internet Archive and others, plenty of others, on what it's all about. And of course, the Open Library itself is working at this time, and you're welcome to use it. So one that got resolved, one that's barely begun. If you think those are fisticuffs on the air, how about the protests and riots and coronavirus getting everybody upset, everybody pushing their own agenda as a result? And what this is doing is providing political leverage for what we all know China has been doing all along, tracking everybody with artificial intelligence. We know where you are, we know where your car is, we know which items you clicked on, how often, and we know who you're talking to. And thanks to the fact that we're looking at you, we're looking at them too. This is something we've prided ourselves in America on not doing for a long time. Now there's a lot of push to do it for one good reason that I've heard, and that good reason is because if you've been seeing someone that's now been diagnosed with coronavirus, they can warn you automatically and in time to get your testing done and behave accordingly. It's a good argument. I'm not sure it's a good enough argument, and a lot of people are using it to lose the degrees of privacy and security we've enjoyed in general in America. I think Europe is even more upset about this issue than America is right now. So I don't want to make it an only American picture, but it's a hot issue, very much related to the other two. So you'll be able to read more about that. And again, the link that I lead you to will lead to additional links. Finally, because it sounds like maybe the money has a good argument here too, and the things that are free are the problem. That's an argument. I want to add the argument that Silicon Valley currently owes over $100 billion in US tax money. I put that in as a counter argument, not as a conclusion. This whole section on the news has just been loaded with the things we're talking about. And as we go forward into the detail of some of them, I'll pick up on some of the comments that I made about this, including not just economics and technology, but politics and even religion. Let's continue and see where it leads us. First of all, a correction. Thanks someone for bringing it up, and they were quite right. I had mentioned that Jitsi Meet, which we're using, is much more trustworthy on several counts than is Zoom, which is oh so popular. And it's quite true. But I did point out that in all fairness, Jitsi Meet also had a ownership that might bring up a little concern. That was a mistake. I had Jitsi Meet confused with a different product. I think the product at the time was Sorry, I'll be back on that one. This is how I confused it, I can tell. But in any case, Jitsi Meet was its own product, one do-good, free open source fan inventing something important. And it's been around a long time, longer than Zoom in terms of its history. But it had earlier names, turned into Jitsi Meet, was bought by one company in 2015 and another 3 years later. And both of those companies are trustworthy companies. I'm hearing somebody interrupting. Proceed, please. Something important. I'm not hearing. Jitsi Meet, 2015, and another 3 years. And are
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm hearing somebody
Go scroll around
interrupting.
to one of these two. The other one.
Let me interrupt for a minute, please. That was Bob Mac, but your voice is breaking up so badly that we can't hear you.
Nope.
Would the people I can see on the screen put your thumb up or down whether you can hear Bob Mac? Okay, Bob, nobody's hearing you on screen. Sorry.
If you have something to say, put it in the chat.
Let me your voice is breaking up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meeting topic now. Tracking is been by private companies for advertising purposes.
If I can be heard, I just. Okay.
Bob, your voice really isn't working. We received a chat comment, which is from Bob Premack. Tracking has been done by private companies for advertising purposes for a long time. It's when the government gets into the game that people start screaming louder, isn't it? And I think often that's the case, of course, yes.
But advertising companies can't arrest you.
Right. This has reached whole new limits in the last 2 days with our president saying he can send federal troops in fully armed where the states don't want it for our own citizens, so-called protection. We shall see. In any case, the price is high this year in all directions. Where was I? I think I'm putting my screen back on. Oh, it never. Are you seeing my screen?
Hold on just a minute. Let me close the chat. Oh, yeah, that's you.
Okay, so back on the screen. Let's see.
You're talking about Jitsi Meet.
Jitsi Meet has been bought by two companies. 8x8 is the company we are currently using it on today. And both of them were trusted companies. It was a slip of the tongue aimed at Jitsi Meet. I'll perhaps be coming back later and mentioning some things related to it, but that's the direction I wanted to get in. A lot of the hot news for this month has to do with the fact that Ubuntu Linux came out not with its twice a year significant upgrades, but with its once every 2 year very significant upgrades. It's called 20.04. That stands for April in 2020. LTS. LTS, long-term support, as in those 2 years, and 3 years more to follow. After that, it will be supported. So if you're the kind of person that wants to put in an operating system and then not nudge it other than needed updates, or perhaps all the updates from the company but not rock the boat yourself, you might want to stay on that long-term support one for up to 5 years, even though you'll have a new one of those in 2 years, and you'll have a new release in half a year. But it's a big one. This one has a bunch of new features in it, and one of them we've been talking about already, but it made a big step forward with the release of 20.04. And as of our last meeting, we weren't recommending it to all comers for all purposes because some things still had rough edges. All the items I work with and Jill works with and our clients at Miller Microcomputer Services work with, all of them are now running smoothly under Ubuntu 20.04. So I'm taking off that warning that I put on that said, you may not want to try it just yet. I think we're there now. Now, there's people on here who are using plenty of other versions, but I believe this is the most popular version on desktops at this point of all the Linux flavors out there. And there are literally hundreds and probably a few dozen that are quite popular. So we tend to major in Ubuntu and then talk about others. This month, Ubuntu is in the news. One thing it has increased support for greatly, I want to discuss today. But similar to last month for the main products, I'm not recommending it for general use yet. It's worth watching. ZFS support is aboard at a new level.
File system.
And ZFS stands for zettabyte. You all know about kilobytes and megabytes. And
Terabytes.
you know how to grow pretty big, but most of us don't grow to zettabytes. They're very big indeed. If you're running a huge computer or a huge array of computers that are all sharing the load together, and you're seeing all of them, then maybe you need to handle a zettabyte file system. And that's what ZFS stands for. That's not me, and it's probably not you. Why am I interested? Why is Ubuntu interested? Well, Ubuntu isn't just the most popular computer on general desktops out there for Linux. It's also a major contender in the commercial market, where a big corporation has moved over to Linux and they hire a company to support them. And Canonical, which is the big company behind Ubuntu, wanted it for that, probably needed it for that. And after a while, they decided to move it into the main system because once it's all the way there, it does two things of great interest to me. One is it goes faster. I thought I was very fast already with what I'm doing, and I don't care too much, but it looks like it might be a real good payoff on a small computer later. In the meantime, what really has me fascinated about it is I'm constantly telling people, don't forget to back up. When do you back up? Well, what don't you want to have to create if there's an accident? That's when you back up, right before then. Turns out that's a lot of the time. And ZFS does instantaneous, incremental backups. They're just built into the system. You could roll it back to the last time you did a save to the computer, or to 15 times earlier than that to pick up something that you just figured out you lost, but it happened a week ago or whatever, or an hour ago in my case, 15 saves. I'm particularly interested in ZFS support in Linux for that purpose. But I also run multiple partitions on my computer to try different versions of Linux, have them all aboard, and I boot from one or the other when I want to try one. There's other ways to do that as well. But my question is, can I try ZFS on one of them and not on all of them at once? It's going to lose my prior file system by doing it if I can't put it in a partition. The answer is you can right now in Ubuntu if you're good enough, but it's not done easy peasy, press the button and you get it. And it will be when it's all the way there. I'm hoping that will be by the next release in October. We shall see. So those are the reasons I wanted to hit for why ZFS is so interesting, and it got so much more thoroughly supported in 20.04 Ubuntu. Almost, but not quite. I think they were hoping they could deliver the whole piece smooth and ready for a beginner to use. But we're still waiting for that. If you want to try it on an extra computer, and we have, it's easy enough to put in. You'll see the instructions here. And when you do, let's time out for one moment. Junk?
It's,
Call from
Yeah, it's junk.
Okay, just, no, we got a call we didn't want. Okay, so let's keep our eye on it. By all means, if you're an experimenter, put it on a different computer and have a ball. We thought it worked fine. We weren't willing to commit all our business to it at this point. Good. Well, how about back to the 2004 LTS itself? What have we got now? The answer for me and for Jill is it's still our favorite. It's still our favorite, but not the way it comes. It comes with GNOME as the front end, and we think GNOME is very awkward, not just for us, but for particularly our less expert clients. We think Unity beats it hollow for ease of use and intuitive niceness. And so we add Unity to Ubuntu 20.04. It's an easy add-on, and we supply the link here with instructions, and we recommend it. We have some things to talk about with that. There's other alternatives that sound almost the same, and we looked at them to see what we thought about them. I've got them listed next as watching with interest, but not moving to. But first of all, I want to mention that Unity is now a popular name for two popular things in the Linux community. One of them is what I'm talking about, a graphic user interface, a user front end on the desktop. The desktop itself is really the front end. And in Linux, that's just another application. You can try one front end or another one as you like. So we've added the one called Unity instead of the one called GNOME. But Unity is something else now that's gotten quite popular. And that is, if you're into 3D graphics, you're using a whole different free application called Unity. So this Unity, the front end that was developed by Ubuntu and Canonical, but they later switched to GNOME and other people kept developing Unity. It's got a problem. Its name has become confusing. We're halfway between calling it Unity and calling it Lomiri, L-O-M-I-R-I. Lomiri is currently a draft version. that I do not recommend you lean on heavily. By all means, play with it and improve it. But at the moment, it's as if you have 1 foot in each of 2 boats. You don't want to be there. So we're sticking with Unity 7.5 for now. Unity 8 is also called Unity Touch. And Lomiri, I think, is going to be something in between the two, but I don't know yet. And you can read about all of them on the links that we'll be supplying. We're talking about the plain vanilla one that was around last year or two as a alternative to GNOME. Now, the ones we're watching with interest of the many other popular Linux systems are ones that have a lot of the flavor of Ubuntu with Unity. Wouldn't it be nice if someone put it together as a single package? You didn't have to do the extra step, especially for a beginner. The answer is yes, and it's got a name. And it's, in fact, has several names. It's currently called Ubuntu Unity Remix 20.04. And if you go to download it, a week or two ago, it would have been called Unubuntu, for Unity Ubuntu. And they've changed that name. It's just less than a week ago, I think, to Ubuntu-Unity. So the ISO file you'll download for it will be Ubuntu-Unity and something for AMD 64 for most of our PC users. And it'll be a .iso file. You'll burn it to a thumb drive just like we do and try it for size. Install it if you like. You can run it from the thumb drive to try it out. I think it's interesting. I also think it's 50% larger, for no obvious reason to me yet, than the ISO file for the main flavor. And I thought it was far too premature to tell people to go to it, except for testing. There's a third one out there, Zorin, Zorin. And Zorin costs money. It's one of those free as in open source, but not free as in money. And you can pay for it and help develop it if you like. But there's an alternative. There's a few alternatives. One is a sawed-down version, and one is a big version. Now, Ubuntu Unity Remix was big at 3 gigabytes of download. This is bigger. So it's really loaded. The trick is what you want, if you want to play with it, is Zorin OS 15.2 Education. Whole school systems are being invited to switch over to this one, and some of you will be very interested in that. And it also has an independent user manual that's just been updated, so it comes with a little more bulletproofing than a lot of the independent versions. And the education version can be downloaded for free. There you go. So you're welcome to try them. We're watching them with interest, but I think that working with the mainstream version and a touch of the Unity graphic user interface is still the way to go for serious use. That's our call on it. Strangely enough, we'll be back to it a little later again. A lot of our topics are overlap in several categories this month. So, on to an update. I just mentioned that Zorin OS comes with the user manual. And certainly, you have no problem finding user manuals for Ubuntu. It's so popular, you can go to the bookstores and find them. You can go online and find them. You can find built-in help that covers most of it. But when you add the Unity to it, as a lot of our users do, where do you go for that combined manual? The answer is you go to our great helper on this group, Elgot Runeman, who already had a version of that manual that he had produced, and he's updated it. And he'd like your help. Elgot, is this a good time for you to go on? Thumbs up if you're ready. Elgot? Okay. I am going to switch my phone off until Elgot tells me to switch it back on, my microphone. Welcome, Elgot.
Thank you, Dick. I think I need to maybe make a slight correction. I am updating an earlier version of my guide, which is for the primary use of those new to computers and to serve the community senior center here in Natick. It has been for Ubuntu as the core of how to do a lot of the steps, but was designed primarily to be a generic explanation of some of the basic computer skills. As such, it isn't a complete manual and currently does not contain any specific reference to Unity because the easiest way to get Ubuntu is to download the basic ISO if you're going to do it yourself. So with that kind of overlap, let me share my screen to show you where I am at with it. So, share my screen. Application window. And it is there. The current version of Ubuntu, Introduction to Computers using Ubuntu, has a web page which is at this time not officially published. Because while this index screen leads you to the table of contents quickly, it shows a lot of information about doing corrections. I've made little labels in the midst of the screen here for the table of contents to tell people when it was ready for review. And in the month plus, have only had a couple of comments. So I'm thinking, okay, it perhaps is the time to launch the actual thing, replacing the older version, which is really quite out of date. So unless it turns out during my presentation here that there is a reason to delay it, I'm planning to make this version go live after tonight's meeting. It's really more a question of removing all this garbage that's on the table of contents page. Each of the individual web pages is ready to go as far as what its contents say without the reservations of review. So if you had a wish to jump in and say, hold the phone, I've looked at word processing number 3, and it's got a real problem, you should fix it before you go live. If nobody jumps in for this last minute and says, don't do it, I'm going to make the site go live, replacing the old version. There will continue to be the opportunity from the index page to go back to look at the older version, which was called Ubuntu with Unity. It's based around 2014 version with slight updates along the way. This one is really up to date in terms of GNOME Shell 2004 version. So this index will be where you'd land if you come from any of my links to the site. And that will happen at the end of this meeting. Unless, as I said, you tell me don't. Any questions on this before Dick takes back over? Okay, then I'll.
Algot, we have
Yeah.
a question from Jill.
Yes.
I'm wondering if we find something later, is it cast in stone or can you edit it easily?
No stone has been cast one way or another. I am prepared to make changes forever and do plan, as things move forward, to do a 2204 version when that comes closer. So every change that happens between now and 2204 would be just an update to the way things are based on the changes that are made by Canonical and the stack of software from Debbie.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I was just holding off the official launch until people had had a chance to do the review over the past couple of months.
Excellent.
Okay. Canonical has said that their policy in any case is basically that it's ready as of April, but isn't official for those of us who would do a normal upgrade until the first quarter has passed after the release. So it won't be until May, June, July that 2004.1 automatically launches the updater. So we'll be ahead by a month for people to look at this if they want to from wherever they're coming from. Now, as regards Unity, the older version.
Algot,
Algot, would like to speak now.
Algot, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I just wanted to say I spent probably an hour and a half the other day reviewing the document when I saw all the updates that had taken place. And I must say I'm very impressed.
Oh.
It really looks like it's going to answer the needs of a lot of people that are just coming in and have questions which are obvious to most of us who have been using it for a while, but not a new user. You've done a great job.
Thank you. That was its purpose. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen so you can all gaze at my. Yes? Charlie?
No, I'm fooling around with the buttons.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right. I have stopped my share and let it go back to Dick. I guess I'm scheduled a little bit later for something else.
Yes, good. Hang on just a minute. I'm going back to the agenda. With a little luck. There I am. And first of all, thank you, Victor, Albert. The examples in the book will be geared to the computer that we, and in particular Tom Swan and Joe and I, maintain in the Native Community Senior Center. Will, after the quarantine, be upgraded to what I've been recommending, Ubuntu with Unity. So I think animal that fits it will be fitting a lot of us too. And it's just an example of what the whole field of software movement is about. So please have a look at using tomorrow. Thanks. We have an item here on a topic I recently introduced called cold software, because it was stuff that wasn't running last month under Ubuntu. I wanted to particularly mention the problems I had noted were unit booting and Ubuntu Cleaner. They're now running fine under it about a week after I complained. The final finishes came through ready for general use again. And for those who don't know, unit booting is my preferred application for taking a Linux ISO file downloaded and burning it to a thumb drive, using the computer as trial in memory or as storage, the hard drive, and run. I like it better than the supplied units for that.
Dick, your audio was breaking up.
Fast, it's flexible,
Your audio is
it's
breaking.
easy to use once you understand concepts, and it does something unique.
No, it's,
Somebody there was talking in, but voice breaking up. Please hold. The unit boot tool allows me to address each partition on the computer or some other hard drive individually, independently. And in fact, it allows me to partition the thumb drive. So I have a general data section on the thumb drive and a little section holding the bootable Linux that's going to the RAM. I don't see that on most of the other tools, and very glad to have it back. The second one I want to mention is Ubuntu Cleaner. Ubuntu Cleaner was my favorite application for just getting rid of all those files that you thought you killed, but still taking up space on the hard drive. It goes through a good deal of that, except for one thing. I'll come back to the one thing. The point is, it's back and running well. While it wasn't running, I switched and some other people switched to a different program. There's plenty of them out there. And I haven't switched all the way back yet. And the reason is that it turns out that Ubuntu Cleaner isn't easily set up for a beginner.
Dick,
I want to add the following files to be automatically cleaned with everything else. And some of them, okay, I'll finish this item.
Dick, I want to interrupt because you're breaking up.
I'm breaking up, okay. What shall we do about that?
I think
Alga,
you will,
did you comment?
I think you will need to try restarting
Dennis,
your
my voice breaking up?
connection.
Yeah, your voice is breaking up.
You are completely garbled through the entire switch over since my
I have a feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can't understand you, Dick. We can't understand you.
Dick, we can understand each other quite clearly, but not you.
I'm doing some breakup also. I'm going to log out. I will log out and come back in. Somebody else?
Each other quite clearly, but not you.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah, other people are garbled now.
Yeah, Michael.
Okay, so we can all hear each other.
We can hear you, Bob, but you're a little garbled as well.
Yeah, other people are garbled now.
Some of the issues seem to be some seem to be,
But you're a little garbled as well.
I'm saying when one person's microphone is on.
I'm going around and muting everybody.
Good.
I suspect feedback. Right now, everybody's muted that I can see. Let's see if Dick's new login is clean.
Hello, can people hear me better now? Thumbs up?
Yes.
Good to know.
Yes,
Good. I strongly suspect what I said at the outset, that the Firefox usage on this connection is affecting other connections. We were warned about that earlier. I don't know the current detailed status on the Firefox learning the tricks of Jitsi.
Charlie's fault.
So maybe that's what's doing it. It's a likely story, as best I can say. Okay, I am back. Is my screen back? Just a minute. Nope, not the one I'm after. I just have to open it first now.
Yeah.
I closed a lot of things to start.
Oh.
Can I?
Wasn't it open?
Was it? You're right. Thank you, Jill. And now that it's open, how do I get to it?
Share.
Whoops. Hither. Share. Application window. I said application window. That one. And share. And we're back in the game for the time being. Okay, so that's what we currently like and don't like about those programs that are now back in the game. Hot hardware. We had one item that caught the attention of a number of people in our group. And I might mention that we have a discussion area in between our monthly meetings. And this got some attention. We have a new announcement of something to be manufactured next year. And that is a tablet computer designed specifically to be at home with Linux and with discrete components, not just the RAM and the battery that you can easily remove, but you can even replace the motherboard. You generally can't unsolder the CPU from the motherboard, but without replacing the computer, you could at least just replace the motherboard to get a newer, more powerful CPU, for example. So that's a bit of a change, and we think it might be a good idea. And a bunch of people in our group are apt to want to try them when they become available. Again, you'll be able to read about that. I'm proceeding onward. I want to describe a whole bunch of things here that kind of blurred together on internet. One of the many things we use the internet for is online shopping. A friend of mine the other day said, I would never use eBay for online shopping. It's far too risky. Well, we personally, and as a company that supplies a lot of clients with computers and parts, we lean heavily on eBay. We think it's low risk. So we got into a conversation. I gave him some examples. And then I got an offer I couldn't refuse. Let me see if I can put that one up now, or if it's already up. It's not up. I'll have it up in a minute. I am opening my desktop, and on my desktop, I'm clicking on, I'm sorry, I'm opening Nautilus File Manager, and in it, I'm clicking on Desktop. And in Desktop, I'm looking for one particular item, this one, and now that I have it, I can get it ready to show to you. Okay, and
Says you're already sharing some. Do you want to close it?
oh, well, what do I do now? I guess I did close it. That's a toggle. Okay, and that's not the window I want. Here's the window I want. What? Oh, it's not showing yet.
Yeah, go up.
The secret window. Folks, you can't see this window anywhere else. While we were arguing about whether eBay is risky or non-risky, I brought up the point that they basically insure me against the risk. And they do it in a way I much prefer to the way Amazon treats its employees, for example. And so the next day I went online and I saw something that we buy at a price I've never seen. This has a little black background mark up near the top, and what it's hiding, it shouldn't be, it's just there in my way, but what it's hiding is a data 1 terabyte SSD. This is a solid state drive, 1 terabyte for $20. The list price on it is $130 for this one. You can find them on eBay for $250 too. Get all kinds of prices on eBay. When they go down to say $80 or so, we're apt to buy a few, and we'll put them in our client computers a little later. When it went down to $20, I said, uh-oh. But I'd also just been saying eBay comes with insurance. And it looked totally legit, except for the price. So I read it carefully. I made sure it was a drive I wanted if I could have it. I said, there's a chance I may not get this. And there's a chance I may not get my money back. How many should we order? I picked the number 5, weighing the risk against the benefit if it comes through. I couldn't tell which was going to happen yet. So I ordered 5. And they say, oh, if you want, you can also make a deal with a different place, Square Trade, and get a 2-year warranty on it. That might be useful because that would be transferable to the end user or client. So usually I find it not attractive for the money. But it turns out that 10% of $20 isn't a whole lot of money to pay for 2 years warranty on a critical 1 terabyte solid state drive. So we ordered 5 Square Trade warranties to go with it, all in the same order. I just clicked the box for that, sent it. And first of all, we heard our money had been taken.
We saw it on PayPal.
Second of all, we heard that eBay said our order was placed. And third of all, we waited to see that the vendor We're shipping our order. We're still waiting.
Well, the next day we got
Meanwhile, eBay got back to us within about 3 hours. What eBay said is, we fear that this was a dishonest advertisement. Somebody took over the vendor's website and placed an illegal ad. You're covered. Click here to go over to our policy and file a claim. Well, this is the test we were asking for, wasn't it? I was kind of unhappy. I was ready to get 5 drives for the price of 1. But that's what these ads specialize in. Click me, click me, click me. That's their signal. And it might be a mistake. How about the insurance policy? We filed for it, and within hours, we had our money refunded. But the original notice and the original filing with eBay didn't cover the square trade amount, which added up to 5 times $2. It wasn't a big deal, but this was a test and we were learning. So we filed with Square Trade and said, we just had all this go on with eBay. Here's how you contact them. We'd like our warranty money back. We don't know if you do that or eBay does that. Please behave accordingly. And sure enough, a little later, we got a message about that. But it wasn't from Square Trade, it was from eBay. Following up later, they saw that we'd also ordered from Square Trade, and they said they are ready to ask Square Trade to refund our money. They're going to ask on our behalf. Do we want to accept or reject that action? Which is the right answer? They're both ambiguous. We had already asked Square Trade ourselves. Now, do we ask eBay to do it or not? We wrote eBay an email about it, and we said, eBay, we already asked Square Trade for the money back. If you know how to untangle this, please do it. We'd like your help if we need it, but we think we won't need it. Please coordinate with them. We don't know which of your 2 answers pertains. And then we stopped. And then we had Square Trade said, done, pleased to help you. And that was all that happened.
well,
about a week ago.
the money came back into our PayPal.
And the money came back instantly from them, from Square Trade, into our PayPal account, all accounted for. We told that to eBay also. And we thought everything was completed. Until yesterday, when we've got 5 separate envelopes in the mail with 5 $2 refund checks from Square Trade, courtesy of eBay, apparently. So now, do we want to accept the checks and be guilty of taking money we don't deserve, which will backfire eventually, we know that, or do we spend a lot more than $10 to extricate ourselves from this dilemma? Or do we just burn the checks and never deposit them? Life is interesting, but the bottom line on the eBay buyer policy is, boy, were we covered. We were even covered more than we wanted to be. The bottom line on the advertisement is, no, you don't always get what you pay for, but you may not get 5 times what you paid for either. So a learning process just run, hot off the press. We are very pleased with eBay, but we wish their accept and reject was a little more pertinent to the puzzle they left us with. It'll straighten out, we're confident. So that's that one. Isn't that a strangey? Now, how do I get back to the main one? It's easy as, can I, I'm switching back to the main menu.
You
Time
can
out.
either close it here, or you can
Stop
you think-
sharing and start sharing. And this time we pick the other one. Application window. And
Oh,
that's
don't you
the
already
window.
have it open?
I have it open, but I'm not sharing it. I had to say which one to share.
Oh,
Here I am. Okay, so that was a wonderful set of tests on buying on the internet, the hot internet. And now that we bought on the internet, I thought I'd tell you something you can buy on the internet. And for that, I guess I'll stop sharing. Because I find myself that one, I find myself. Why aren't I on? I think I should be on live.
you're still sharing up here.
I thought I wasn't.
No, I think you still are.
Okay,
He is.
here we go. I said hide the sharing.
No,
No,
there's your sharing. You have to close the sharing.
close it. Oh wait, I'm off.
Click it up here again.
Here's the problem.
Click it up here.
My advisor is advising. Yes,
Yeah.
and
Hmm. Okay, now close. On this. Oh, you're getting the sharing information.
how? Can't hear.
I don't see yours. There you are.
Okay, and now the demo is here. This is the world's biggest Ubuntu logo on a T-shirt,
And I have one too.
and Joe has one to match. And these T-shirts are available online for $10 from a place that was delightful to work with. But again, there's a problem. It's an easy problem to explain, and the problem is, can I get back now? I think the way back, I have to open it again, I think. Once again, an application window. There's got to be a better way to do this, but I haven't found it. And share. And the way you do it is down here, Ubuntu T-shirt for $10. You'll be able to click. But when I did, I ended up with one that was size medium, which is what most of my other T-shirts say on them. And it fit me like an overcoat or a pup tent. And the logo was so big it was falling below my belt buckle. So we sent them a message. They couldn't have been nicer. They sent me a small one, and I'm wearing it. It's a great fit. I'm happy. They were very cooperative. Just check the actual size, do a chest measurement, and ask them which one to send. They'll treat you well. So, and they, by the way, are in upstate New York State. It will come quickly too. And that's including free shipping handling. All you pay is mass tax. So highly recommended. Another catch-22 on the internet and another solution. Now, you're stuck at home. What are you going to do with all your spare time? The answer is you're going to go touring all the places you don't want to go touring just now on the internet with a virtual tour. Here's one. If you do a search on this kind of just virtual tour, you'll come up with an awful lot. This one's by the BBC, and I liked its selections. And they're cheating. It says tour the world, but one of them is going out into space. You've been warned. You'll have fun. Now, remember up top, the book publishers were getting ready to sue? Here are the tools you can use for that. So on the internet, you can go look at the Internet Archive. You can look at the Wayback Machine, and you can look at the open library that's currently threatened with a lawsuit. And you can see what they're about and what they're saying about their offerings. The link for Open Library will take you to an explanation, which I think which will tell you how to use it. The one up above under FOSS News, the Open Library link will take you to their explanation of what they're doing and about the lawsuit, of the change in it. So that's it. And now we have a guest speaker about to make a return. That is Al Gott, and he's going to tell you about a whole different use of the internet for something I think I was going to say is long overdue. I should say the adoption of it by most people may be long overdue. And let Al Gott explain.
Thanks again, Dick. I am going to share my screen as well. You can leave your screen showing the agenda. And as a comment about how to make screen sharing work more effectively in meetings, I strongly urge that any image, like the eBay image you showed earlier, just be opened as a file in Firefox, because I presume that you could open this email draft agenda as a web page as well, and then you'd just be switching tabs to go from topic image to topic image, rather than having to unshare your screen and then go to a new screen and then reshare your screen.
Quick comment, Al Gott.
Yes.
I have turned Firefox off for this. I do that easily and flexibly, but I was afraid it might again be slowing down others when I'm running a dual with Chromium. So I've been running through Chromium, and I'm awkward with that at this stage.
Well,
I think your tip is a good one, but I'm not sure I'm ready to try it right now. Do I need it for what you're doing?
I'm going to be sharing my Firefox screen.
Okay, good. All set.
As I did earlier, to show the screen of my manual. And the only person who should be slowed down by that is probably your computer, because Jitsi is not running on Firefox.
Understood.
So it's just a smoother transition potential. That's what I'm suggesting. All right, I'm going to now share my screen so that I can get where I'm headed. And you will recognize that I am showing the manuals page, and here I'm just going to switch to a different tab, to my list of what I consider my demos for the meetings. I hope you're all seeing that.
Yep.
And as just an illustration of how easy it would be to go back, I'll switch tabs back to where I was, and there was no need to unshare and then reshare. So it's a faster process. And of course, I could also open an image to be displayed as a separate tab here in Firefox. So here we are to talk about the Fediverse, which really is just a new word made up to try to cover the concept of distributed social networking. I have been a fan over past years of Twitter because it was an easy way to share small pieces of information. But I came to feel that Twitter was not the best location for my small posts, and I certainly didn't want people to have to search me out on blog, even though I have a blog. So I went and heard that there was another one and found something known as Mastodon, which is a piece of software that's part of this Fediverse, a distributed network of various servers that are out there being run by a bunch of different people with a bunch of different backgrounds and a bunch of different tech skills. But there are also a lot of people who are ready and willing to provide the tech skill to run a server, and people who are willing to try to run a small group social network rather than trying to build a big company. And that's what this presentation is about. You can look at the presentation again at your leisure, because as I pointed out, is on the demo page. I'll be happy to include that in the mailing list to remind people where that demo page can be reached. This is an online presentation using the S5 piece of software. It's basically JavaScript. And you just proceed by tapping the screen or by using the right or left arrows to move forward or backward, just like any other standard presentation. But it's entirely run on the internet. So, social media is in general a way for me to do my short form thinking out loud. I get to engage with others, I do language study, and I don't have to be stuck in the silo of any one of those other places, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. Now, that is because this is a system of interconnected servers that is called federation. You choose who you want to follow. You choose who you want to actually spend a great deal of time interacting with. You can ignore people who follow you if you want. You can block them so they can't follow you. And Mastodon was the first of a series of groups to make a product that would do the job. All of these, pixel-fed, PeerTube, Funkwhale, each for their own kind of information, all federate together by using a common standard known as ActivityPub, which was recently developed and is a recommendation of the Web Federation known as the WC3, that kind of is the guidance organization overarching the way the World Wide Web currently runs. Nobody's required to use ActivityPub, but it is a very good and solid way to provide connection between the servers that shares information in an effective way. That means it's distributed. The load is not on a cluster of servers run by one company. You can have separate focus for each segment of the community. There are clients built for the web, but Android and iOS clients are available. The underlying technology is open source software, Ruby on Rails, Node, JavaScript. ActivityPub really hasn't been around for more than about 4 years. It is a thing that was developed on top of and around trying to come up with a way to challenge the shortcomings of what was known as O status, a former protocol, and actually was developed by a relatively local programmer named Christopher Lemmer Weber, And as I said, the WC3 is in support of this protocol. So it's not just one programmer. It's not going to go away and suddenly crash, because there are a bunch of people who have bought into it. Mastodon Social is just one server. Perhaps it's a cluster of servers, because there is a huge amount of activity on what is considered to be the mothership. But you're not stuck by having to sign in on Mastodon Social. I chose, after an earlier attempt on a different server, I settled in to a place known as mastodon.art. That's just a domain representing some server being run somewhere. But the people running that particular instance, as it might be called, were focused on people interested in doing stuff that's artistic, and I occasionally write rhymes and do a lot of clip art, so it seemed like a good fit for me. But there are other servers that are technology oriented. There's servers for writers, for academics, and so on. Now, you get to pick from a large list that's out there. I like the layout. This is what my screen looked like 2 days ago when I was working up this presentation. I like the browser as my client. It means I have one less piece of software to maintain, and Firefox has no trouble with this. This area on the left is where I enter new posts. These are the people that I'm following, and this guy right here, Eugen, styled himself as Gargron, is the primary person behind Mastodon, as it turns out. Maureen Duffy happens to be a Boston-based Red Hat person doing their user interface work. And there is a local timeline showing all the people who are posting on Mastodon art. And then there are columns also for other available streams that go by. But these are fascinating to me and keep me busy enough so I don't generally go to too many others. I will be happy to explain how this works in detail on some other occasion, but I'm doing just kind of an introduction here. For those who start using it, they will find that it comes up in a dark theme that looks like this screen. In some ways, it's kind of nice, but my eyes have determined that the light version is the one I prefer. Mobile apps are available, work quite well. Various different ones are available. And there's a list in a link here that will get you to the ones that are recommended by the Mastodon development team. It costs, well, nothing up front, but I do recommend, if you decide to become a user, that you give them the support through either PayPal, Patreon, or LibrePay, which are some of the deals, unless you're into Bitcoin. You don't have to pay, and the server will run just fine. The problem will come only if nobody helps the server admin, and then that comes down to be a burden, and they'll shut the service down. Not the whole Mastodon service, not the whole Fediverse, but just the place that you decided to call home, the server you decided not to support. So the support has been coming in for the good servers, and there are lots out there that are very successful, some too successful, people might say. If you wanted to get into the Fediverse, you could ask a person who's already there to offer you a login. You could go instead to joinmastodon.org here, where you would be directed to see a whole bunch of open servers where you can just create an account. If you join a server, one of the nicest things about it is that you can move from one server to another with a built-in capability, shifting all your connections to the new server instead of being stuck where you are. I really like the flavor that's in there. And of course, one thing you should certainly do is to follow me if you decide to get into the Fed. Are there questions? I don't want to take more than my allotted time.
There was a talk on the Fediverse at the Liber Planet as well. So if you're interested in the subject, you could take a look at their site and find that talk.
Thank you, Dennis.
My group, my Red Hat, actually, I have no work for that. Up our server.
Back to me.
Yep.
Dick Miller here again. Thank you, Algot. I'm especially glad you mentioned donations. This stuff is free because someone else is paying the bill. When no one's paying the bill, it's not there as free. If you donate to the ones you care about, it doesn't have to be a lot because there's a lot of other people who care. Let's spread the word. And I want to thank you for reminding me that last night I was about to make a note and didn't. It's a good time for me and Jill to send a little money to Wikipedia, which we lean in on, and it's the same story all around. Which ones do you benefit from? You don't have to give a lot, but give and tell other people you're giving too. Once in a while, we give a whole lot because it's just something that's given us a lot. Fair is fair. But you're also planting seeds and continuing the growth of very good things out there. I'm glad you brought that up. I'll put that in the notes too. Algot, if you had a different link or two we should include in the final agenda, send it along to me. You mentioned a couple of other items, I think. I'll slide them in somewhere. Good. Thanks so much.
I think you can get to the other one just by alt-tabbing.
Alt-tab.
Mhm.
Jill has a theory I'm going to test. Well, why don't I just click there?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work.
Alt-tab.
When all else fails, listen to your wife.
Going to be one of the two Chromium.
I tried them both, right?
You did.
So Alt-tab doesn't work. Agreed? That's
think-
one.
I think Alt Tab would work if you decided to share your full screen.
Maybe that's what I should be doing. Well, let's see.
It has its downsides.
I'll try it and see. With the load on from the group today, I'll learn more than I will other times.
It wasn't there.
Yes, but now I can pick what I want. It can be the entire screen. I said entire screen, and it's not giving me that option.
No. That's a different thing entirely.
What are you saying?
In Chromium, part of Jitsi,
I'm interested.
share the entire screen.
I'm clicking on it, and when I say share, the share in the lower right is grayed out.
Ah,
The share in the lower right is grayed out for some reason in Jitsi.
Do you have?
I'm trying to share the entire screen, and it's not proceeding. Gad. As I say, not quite tamed yet.
Can you share a window?
Yes,
Or,
that's what
or
I've
is
been doing.
sharing turned off?
Sharing was on a moment ago, but I went to change it to that entire screen. I'll try it one more time. It's still the same. It won't do that. So I'll go to an application window again. Same regular one again. And share it. Now, hopefully, are you seeing it yet?
Yes.
We're seeing the agenda.
Good. Okay. I want to back up to something I skipped right through earlier, and that is under FOSS history, a third of the way down the agenda. What does Ubuntu mean? It's going to go to a really interesting Wikipedia article, Speak of the Devil, and that's what reminded me of it. And it will tell you what the word means. And I've been telling people it's in Swahili, I think. I'm wrong. It's not Swahili, but it is an African language. And Ubuntu means one thing in particular. It's that we all are interconnected. In short, unity. So that's the concept, a philosophical concept. It's become a religious concept. It's become a political movement. And of course, it's become the name of a major piece of software, which is from a South African Englishman who brought us the Ubuntu that we use. But what Ubuntu means is older than that. And it got a revival back around, I'd say the 1980s or so, when South Africa went under a quiet revolution and became a real democracy. And that was Nelson Mandela, and Desmond Tutu is where a lot of people in America first heard the word Ubuntu. He took that African philosophy and aligned it with his Christian theology, and that turned into a major theme in South Africa. So I told you earlier we'd even get religion in on this one today. And by golly, just like all the news this week, everything is included. And it didn't take Trump shooting bullets into a crowd to wave a Bible in front of a church to do it. So here we are. That was the Ubuntu I wanted to come to. And the whole story of it is well done, I think, with links going to various places in the link that we'll give you. Okay, now back on the track where we were making good progress. I, for one, would like to play around some with Mastodon and see what it will do. And Algot may be seeing you there. Who knows? I shudder to think of more time, though. I put in my notes, Mastodon is to Twitter and Facebook as Jitsi is to Zoom. Same message, you can get off the things that are various kinds of toxic ingredient and find something better. It's what we do anyway with free software. Security and privacy. Well, I'll just mention again, avoid Zoom. I think we talked about it enough. You can read the links there. Video conference with free unlimited Jitsi Meet. And this gives you some information as to how you can do it. I'm going to go read some of it because my flipping back and forth between screens was very awkward today. It's worse than I'm used to. It's something I forgot, no doubt. I'm getting a refresher and a reminder. And that 8x8.com is listed here also under security and privacy because they're the group on which we're using it. but the instructions on Jitsi Meet will tell you how to do that. Okay, here's an interesting one, also in the news. The Free Software Foundation, based in Boston, is offering its members free, non-commercial use of Jitsi Meet. In other words, they put it up on their servers, just like the one we're using on 8x8.com, and making it available. I think we bounce out most of the way to California and back in dealing with a server in the middle on the one we're using. So it might be more efficient. Now, again, Free Software Foundation offers good things to everybody for free, but it's only offering this to its members. And I believe members cost $120 a year unless you're a student at half price. So it's not free. And I'm glad they're doing it. It will be a great fit for some people. And it's for non-commercial use. I think we'll be contacting them and seeing if they offer all the pieces we need and if they offer it to a non-cost FOSS user group for free. We'll see. Might go on it, might not. But I thought it was worth mentioning because it's what they've picked, and they're right in the middle of the free software issues. One more clue that it's a good choice. Once tamed. Security and identity theft virtual talk. This is just in 2 hours. 7 p.m. tonight, there will be a talk being offered by the Natick Public Library on security and identity theft. And how are you going to use it? On Zoom, for gosh sakes, the thing you don't want to be using for security and identity theft. So here's a backfire I'm flagging. They're also offering it on Debco software. I don't know if that's instead of or if it's going through both of them at once. But I went to look at Debco for its privacy policy. All I can say is take a look. It's absolutely inscrutable. I know they're going to share your stuff with a lot of other places, and I'll be darned if I know if they know what they're sharing it for. It looks like the Natick Library has picked a bad route to do their talk on security and identity theft. However, I'll point out 2 other things. One is bad. It may not be the Natick Library. It may be the entire Minuteman Library Network, which includes dozens and dozens of libraries around Boston. That's worse. The good news is Firefox, in its latest packaging, offers an easy way to do this within a box where they don't connect to your computer. You're anonymous in your connection beyond Firefox. So you might want to try it that way, and it's just in a couple of hours. Thought I'd flag it for tonight. Good news, bad news. All that's left on my list for today is our hero of the year.
Dick?
Oh, yes. Is that Algot?
No, this is Bill.
Oh, hi, Bill.
I can give a little good news on the Zoom front.
Please.
After the public relations disaster of being called out by the world's top security, cryptography, and privacy folks, Zoom Video has taken consultation with some of those top people, and a major white paper was released 2 weeks ago, giving a strategy and roadmap for migrating Zoom to using real end-to-end encryption, what they should have had and claimed they had all along, that is standing up to scrutiny. And they rolled out a minor update already that isn't one of the 4 phases in the plan. I'll send you the links to include in your minutes. This is not enough. They'll still have servers in mainland China, and presumably mainland China official supervision of the contents of their phone apps. And I'm not sure I want to use federated single sign-on tying my other identities to my Zoom identity if I was using Zoom for political purposes in certain countries. And the stronger identity combined with stronger encryption will make it harder to deny you used Zoom, which may be why they're agreeing to this. They'll be able to track who joined which meeting better, even while people have more surety that unless a member of the meeting recorded the meeting, it wasn't recorded. So, good news, bad news.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you brought it up. I mentioned Silicon Valley as owing over $100 billion in taxes in the US. And Zoom, I think I mentioned last month, now is worth more than I think it's the top 7 airlines combined. They have become incredibly wealthy.
And
they
well,
can
the
afford-
airlines are also temporarily really hammered.
Well, they are
The ones that don't go
temporarily hammered.
bankrupt, the ones that don't go bankrupt will resume being overvalued later.
I think Zoom being in the driver's seat like that means a tiny fraction of 1% will be concerned. All their business was picked up from naive users. So I agree with everything you said on both sides, but my take on it personally is Zoom has said things like this in the past, and it's been worse every new round after they said they were correcting things.
Well, no, this
true,
what's
that's
different. What's different this time is who is signed off on the white paper. If they implement what's in the white paper, it will be better for most folks, even though there are gotchas for the, the Hong Kong militants in particular.
There's a lot of gotchas on Zoom, and there's no need to commit to it other than personal preferences. So my personal preference is until it's been proved in ways I even doubt can be proved. I think they can say things and get away with things concurrently and have shown a steady pattern of doing so. Avoid them.
Yes.
But they're also popular. That's a problem, like Facebook.
Yep. Network effect.
So we have a puzzle there. Well, I was about to say I finished my part of the agenda. I am going to introduce Dennis Payne to introduce his new game. And then I hope we'll have a bunch of questions or comments like this continuing. But first, Dennis, are you ready to go?
Yep.
I am hoping you will show us Mutant Road and what you're doing.
Well, let me share my screen.
You want to unshare yours?
Can you see my screen?
Lovely.
Looks like an 8-bit side scroller.
It does. The smaller screen over on this side here is what it is in its actual size. So that's 96 pixels by 64 pixels.
Whoa.
So it displays on the Pocket Arcade, which has a screen size slightly less than an inch. But the screen is actually very good. So I have to say that it's pretty impressive seeing it running on there and that you can still distinguish things. But I do find for development, it's sometimes easier to use a bigger version. So right here is the same game running at 10 times its regular size. And so I decided to do a beat 'em up, which is a genre of games popularized with Double Dragon. The basic premise is that you're one guy that goes over and uses martial arts moves and just beats everyone up until you get to the end of the game. Usually the most popular thing about these type of games is to play them with other people. So most of these games end up being multiplayer. So you can get together with friends to go through it. The Pocket Arcade only has a single set of controls. So this one's only single player. The graphics themselves I found on OpenArt or Open Game Art. It's a site that has graphics that are free to use. They only allow licenses that are freely available. Now, these graphics are not technically what's on that site, because when I went to try to use the graphics from that site, the graphics were too big still. So they had pixel art for all of this, but even the pixel art they had ended up being too big and you couldn't make a game with it. So I had to scale everything down. So this is your character walking around. He can punch. He can kick. Eventually the plan is that he'll be able to do a jump kick, but that didn't end up making it in before the contest was over. You can scroll up and down. When you move over, you'll find some mutants who come to attack. So you can beat them up. So that's all that's in the game at the moment. I didn't have time to add any more enemies or anything yet, but you can see that there's a lot more to the level that I plan on adding. Over here is the end of the level screen. The idea for this part would be that this garage door here would open up and some larger enemy would come out and attack you. So that's pretty much the game.
Dennis,
Yep.
is that a green dumpster there?
Yes, it is.
Aha.
Can I light it on fire?
Not at the moment. I could add in something to do that. The system that this runs on is pretty limited for its processing powers in memory. So it becomes one of those things of something like that where it would only be useful on this one screen perhaps is something you have to decide. Do you really want to use the memory and CPU for that, or whether it's better to focus on other things?
This was written in what programming language?
Live streaming is on.
It was written in C++, basically. The Pocket Arcade is an Arduino device. So Arduino uses C++, kinda. They use C++, but they modified some things to make it easier for non-programmers. So, for example, it doesn't actually have to be a valid C++ program. You can go over and use functions before you define them, and the compiler just looks ahead and finds what it needs to. Now, the simulator that I have there is actually requires it to be C++ because it just uses the regular C++ compiler to compile it. But
That's cool. I've done some development with C or C++ and SDL, but I haven't done it on that device.
I really like the device, so I definitely recommend the device.
Do you have like a web page or a GitHub or something where you've got more information on some of what you're doing?
Yes, I have a GitHub with the tiny screen sim. So that has the program to go over and take these Arduino programs and compile them to run on the computer under Linux. And I have a open game source article on the development I did for VioByte, which is a Pac-Man game I developed for it. I think those were the big articles I have on it at the moment.
This is Dick. Dennis and others, Bill, for instance, you cited a couple of links that maybe we should include tonight. I promise I won't write up the final agenda until, let's say, 8 p.m. tonight. So if by then you could get me a link or two you want added that I don't have yet, I'll slide them in. And,
You have mail.
Good. And this has been a good meeting despite some obstacles. I propose we just leave it open if anyone wants to chat further on similar topics. Does that sound good? People can leave as they like, and we'll see you next month or on the Discuss forum in the meantime.
Thank you all. Thank you, Dennis, in particular, and Dick, as usual. I'm
And
on my
Al-
way.
And Al got a known ringleader.
Okay, I'll be going also too. Have a good month, everybody.
Thank
And
you.
stay safe.
Thank you, Dick and Jill.
T-shirts.
Charlie is still on. You-
I think we're still here.
Yeah.
Bob,
I
are
just
you
switched-
on? Bob Premack, are you on?
Still on.
You were breaking up very badly. I don't know if you can hear me
Just
okay.
out of curiosity,
I'm wondering if there's anything you can do to
just out
help.
of curiosity, are we seeing a lot of? Yeah. Are we still having a lot of problems with fewer people? Okay.
I'm wondering if there's anything.
Okay, it's any better.
I think I'm at the end of what I can do that's helpful today. I'll say goodbye. Thanks all.
Cheers. Stay well.
I put the links to the GitHub for Tiny Screen Sim and the various open game source articles I've done on.
If anyone can hear me, I'm cutting out too. Cutting out.
So are your games open source or they're commercial or what?
My games are generally open source.
Nice.
I do have one commercial game, but otherwise they're open source.
Nice. Yeah. I did some work on TuxMat. I do a lot of work on different open source projects and I've done some gaming stuff, but I'm more in the educational stuff because I'm in the educational field.
I have one educational game.
Cool.
Or actually,
That
I
sounds good.
suppose
I'll have to recommend it.
I suppose I have two, but one of them I haven't put online. But
Yeah.
I did a game called Everything Attacks, and it's to learn the Western states. So it would randomly generate some monsters attacking a state, and you have to say what the state name is, or the state gets destroyed.
Well, that sounds nice because they don't have enough geography games out there.
Yeah, my son went over and did badly in some of the some geography tests, so this was a way to help him, and he really enjoyed the game. So,
Well, if you have a link to it, I've got a list of educational games. I'll put it up there.
and this game is in the web browser actually. All right, I'm going to turn off the live stream.
I'll share that with the educational stuff that I contact some of those people in the